Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Ali Jiwani, the CEO of Rally Video. Good afternoon, Ali. How you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today. So to start with, can you just share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career by studying finance, graduated many years ago now. And after graduating in finance, I realized very quickly that I didn't want to be a number cruncher and I wanted to go into tech. And so I left my job at banking, started a food delivery company, ran that for about 2 years, and then sold it to a larger company here in Toronto. And then decided to take some time, move around different places, different cities. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I was like, this is the best time to start another company. It's so rare that we get these huge generational shifts. And so this was the time to start a different business. And we decided to build something called Rally.video, which is a more social and more fun platform for teams and events to happen on the internet.
Oh, very cool. So, and you say you're a long time ago. I think I went to school a little bit longer than you did, but I started with punch cards just for the further reference. Yeah. So, well, that's very interesting. So, well, tell us what Rally does then. I mean, you gave the high level of it, but what do you do? What is your actual product? Who's your target audience? What do you do for them? All those things.
Yeah, let me take you back to when we started Rally so you can understand why Rally is the way that it is.
Sure.
So we started around like March of last year when the pandemic first hit. So if you think of like, Tom Hanks getting COVID, the NBA shutting down, we were sitting on like a 20-person Zoom call thinking everything is locked down. We can't go to bars, restaurants, concerts, etc. And we thought to ourselves, like, there's got to be a better way to take the fun that happens at bars and concerts and bring it to an online solution. And there's no way that Zoom is going to do this because Zoom is like a business meeting platform, right? It's like a very dull, rectangular shaped like tool, right? Mm-hmm. And so early in April, we spent a couple of weeks building out like a prototype, and we built this thing called Rally, which we then released for my, at the time, my co-founder's birthday party. And so we put this out there. We invited the same 20 or so people that came to the original Zoom call. And we said, hey, let's have these people use Rally instead of Zoom for like this online birthday party. And people loved it. They were like, holy crap, this is so much more fun. I can hop around and talk to different people that I want to. I can hear the background chatter of everyone around me. I can jump on a stage and grab the mic and do cheers. And I can perform in front of people, like do my comedy or play my music so everyone can hear me and applaud me. And it just felt like a really fun, lighthearted way to enjoy each other's company while we were stuck at home without access to, the bars or restaurants that we normally would have. And so that's kind of how Rally first started. And the ethos of social connection and fun continued to stay with the business. And then throughout last year and most of this year, that's been the kind of customers that we've been pursuing. People who want to have their remote teams come together for team socials, people who want to run their conferences and do networking events, people who essentially just want a platform where it's not going to feel like you're taking turns speaking. It's going to feel like you're actually at what would be an online bar or an online space to hang.
Or even like an online party, right? It sounds like you would go and mingle with different people at a party, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's really cool. I would assume you've had some pretty good traction since the pandemic hit. Would that be safe to say?
We've been really lucky, but not only has the traction been interesting, I think the best part is to get really unique forms of parties. So for example, we've had like weddings, baby showers. We had a cardinal who I think was like north of like 75, 80 years old use the platform. And most of these people have been like, holy crap, this is so much fun. This is amazing. Like, where has this been, for a majority of our careers or our lives? And so like, while the attraction's been great, it's really great seeing these unique use cases.
Mm. Interesting. Well, it's funny because when the pandemic hit, we did something with your competitor. With the family, with my whole family. I'm one of 8 siblings, and it was the only way for mom to get to see us all. So we've been doing that since. But it sounds like this would be a more fun way to do it, where, especially since new grandchildren have been born, that she could actually go and see the grandchildren, right? One-on-one.
Yeah, totally. And you can break off into different groups, and like you can have different conversations with different family members. So it's kind of a cool way to, just like you do in real life, have like groups of conversations as opposed to one big conversation.
So let's just say there's a we're in a party or some type of situation like that, and you can kind of overhear a discussion going on near you. Can you just like pop into that I guess that room or whatever you call it?
Yeah, exactly right. And so, if you and I are talking and, our conversation starts to die out and we're like, hey, we've talked about hockey, we've talked about food, what else is there to talk about? All of a sudden we hear somebody talk about, like Kanye West's new concert or like some sort of really cool thing that's going on. We can be like, oh, that's a really cool topic. Let's you and I talk about it because we just overheard somebody else talk about it. Or let's go join them and talk about it because they're talking about it already. Right. So there's this kind of like cool vibe that gets created as a result of not having such siloed conversations.
Very cool. And then it's interesting because you started like right at the pandemic, and I knowing your type of product, video, online video streaming, you had to have some network issues there. I have to believe, correct? At the beginning?
But oh yeah, there was network issues. We had to switch video providers a few times. Accessibility issues, right? You got to teach people how to use video products. Some people like how they use Zoom. Some people like how they use Hangouts, and so there's always this like difference of opinions when it comes to using the product. But these are all challenges that I think are actually quite fun. Like it's fun teaching people how to be different and innovative.
Mm-hmm. And is that a big problem you have? Is that when people think of what we're doing now, they think of Zoom, and is that hard to break that barrier?
I think for now it's fine that they think of Zoom because it's the same reason that you think of like Kleenex when you think of like tissue paper or whatnot. I mean, that is the brand that we are competing against at a larger scale, but at a very micro scale, like we want to forge our own niche. And right now that niche is around social video. And when I think of these larger competitors like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, I don't think that they would be focusing necessarily on social. I think social will become an afterthought. And so that's kind of where we have a good chance at winning the space.
Yeah, and it's funny because you started at the pandemic, so I have to assume that you don't have an office somewhere that you all go into every day, correct?
What's an office? I've never heard of this concept.
I'll explain it. It's something we used to go to, and believe it or not, we would get in our cars and drive there every morning and drive home every night.
That sounds like a headache, man. And you'd have like like these like areas where you just work with like large scale, like what do you call it, cubicles that you would just be like siloed under.
Yeah, and internet.
Yeah, that sounds hectic.
I know. So how did you do that? I mean, how did you start a company? I mean, it had to be 100% remote. And were all of you in the same city? Were you in separate cities? And at what point did you start using your product to help build your product?
We've been using our product since the day that we formed our first prototype. So that's like 2 weeks into our business, right? It's like April 16th or something. But honestly speaking, I don't think the only time that you would need to come together and the only time that we as a team came together was like every other Sunday to brainstorm different ideas and to quickly disagree or argue about concepts that we were trying to get through. Having a disagreement over Zoom is a little bit tricky. You have a lot of like back and forths, and video calls aren't really made for that. But I think beyond that, you don't really need an office. You can work from anywhere in the world. And I think that you actually, as somebody who naturally is creative, and I think most designers, engineers, artists, people working in product, like they're naturally creative people. And to put them into like a 4x4 box and to say this is your workspace just doesn't feel like it's a fun way to go. I think they need to be in places where they can like go to the balcony and sit out, or like, we've worked at a beach, we've worked in a car, like you just want to be in different environments because it stimulates different kinds of creativity, and like why not allow that to take place?
No, I agree with you. I mean, I've done both. I've done the cubicle world, and you're right. It is a little bit stifling, and there's a lot of interruptions that just happen naturally that wouldn't happen when you're working from home or working remotely. And people tend to schedule more. If they need to know something, they tend to schedule it as opposed to just come up and tap you on the shoulder. Would you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes I've been working remotely for over 10 years, and sometimes I'll just go down down to the local water. There's a nice lake near my house, and I just go there, and if I don't need an internet connection, or even if I do, it's just a little bit slower through my phone, I'll just work from there. And no one knows that's where I am. You don't know where I am right now. It looks like I'm somewhere in the middle of the Mediterranean, but I'm actually not. So it's interesting. So now that you're established, you've been in business for almost a year and a half now. You have a growing customer base. Do you foresee that you ever will have an office, or do you think you're just going to be 100% remote, especially since you provide a product that promotes remote work.
Yeah. So I think that at some point we might have an office, but it wouldn't be an office in the same way that that I think like, cubicles or existing offices work. I think we'd want to have a place where you can do all sorts of really fun things. Like when I imagine an office, I imagine a place where you have like a music studio where you can like take some time and like make some beats or just like play in a band or play some music to like relax. I also completely foresee that, the future of office work is actually going to be, and I'm taking a page from like the Mark Zuckerberg playbook of like, there's going to be like a metaverse, right? There's going to be a place where people are going to hang out online. You might be wearing a headset. You might be on your mobile phone, on your tablet or some other device. But you're going to be in this place where it's not just going to be like a square grid. It's going to be a fun atmosphere where you can like really hang out with others. And I think enabling that is what the future offices are going to be like. So you're going to have more studio and screen space in offices. You're going to have more green rooms and more animation studios as opposed to square cubicles. And I think if there was going to be a future of the office, that's where it would be.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. If I wasn't so close to the end of my career, because you're closer to, I think I would come join you. But your product sounds really cool. Is there any way you can like demo it real quick for us?
Hey, welcome to Rally, where it was built to simulate a live venue. Now what that means is you can hear the background noise of everything that's happening in the room. When you first join, you're sitting by yourself at a table, but you can join any of the other tables in the room simply by clicking join. Watch this.
Curious, like,
hey guys!
Hey!
Now if I wanted to start a new conversation with someone, all I have to do is hover over their window and click new table, like this. And that's it. That's Rally. Have fun.
I know it's close to the weekend there, so I hope you have a great weekend, and thank you for joining me today.
Cool. Thank you so much, and you too.
All right. Bye.